Really, have you got nothing better to do than waste my time with talk of legends, myths, and forgotten tribes? You're so far along and then you just fall off the wagon. You start asking questions about things that do not concern you and never will even come up as a threat, as a potential alliance, as a blip on the radar of your operation. You aren't even based in East Asia, so why are you concerned about this petty little thing called the Stargazers? Stargazers, hardly even a tribe, definitely not werewolf, not as we would consider them, wolf. Not predators, no, not by any stretch, and hardly a foe for Pentex. Stargazers, the name really says it all, does it not? A tribe committed to observing the umbra, the stars, the galaxies, the spirit world, more bothered with the celestial than with the terrestrial. I think you would agree that the Stargazers are certainly not something that you need to really bother yourself with, but let's entertain the notion that they even exist. And certainly I've never found evidence of that. I've never found evidence that the Stargazers do more than exist as words on the wind. Stargazers, as far as I'm concerned, are simple rumours spread about to slow our operations in China, Mongolia, India, Japan. I've heard tell from members of the DNA organisation in the Tokyo office that the Stargazers have occasionally fallen afoul of them, but they've not done similar to us. We have oil rigs off the eastern coast of India, around Malaysia, Endron operations, and Stargazers have never bothered to interrupt anything like that. All I have found is that the Stargazers are more prone to navel gazing and meditation, and if they are operating, they are doing so very, very slyly, like a fox, more the fox spirit and the wolf spirit, more consumed by that rage than they are the bestial rage. Never Arun among the Stargazers. Stargazers make up Philodox, occasionally Theurge, more likely, but they don't possess the canniness of the Uctina. They do not possess the ferociousness of the Shadow Lord. They are not bound manipulators. They are very unlikely to bring about the end of the worm or our activities, I can assure you of that. They have always been known as the smallest of tribes, in fact, and, well, it's not a time to be small. Not when you are a werewolf and your numbers are already limited. Werewolf. What is the good of being one of Gaia's appointed protectors when you cannot even stomach taking the form of a blood-drinking, meat-eating, flesh-rending predator? No, they would rather channel that rage into other activities. I understand they possess various gifts, you see, that allow them to do that. They can actually focus their rage into other paths. Does that sound like the werewolves we know and love? They can walk on water, they can run up walls, they can channel elements. Does that sound like a bestial horror to you? You really do waste my time with this kind of tale-telling. I have a very busy schedule and Stargazers were not on my list. You sought this information out. Well, here it is. The Stargazers, if they exist, are declining. They are not an active threat. But let's suppose for a second that they were. What would they be doing? What would these mountain-based, rural, isolated, solitude-infected, meditant lupines be doing? Well, I suppose they could be strengthening the local populace. Werewolves do possess gifts that bolster will, that inspire loyalty, that make others more ferocious if they cannot be that themselves. It's possible the Stargazers doing that they are manipulating things from afar, but I've certainly found no evidence of that, which would mean that's a very long con, especially as their numbers are so few. What else could they be up to? Well, I understand that they can emulate the spirits that they so adore, that they can tidal wave a facility as if possessed by the water spirit itself. Literally, in number, they will flow from the mountains and they will tear apart everything in their wake. They will become the spirit. That they speak with rabbits, and they speak with chimera, and they speak with all kinds of other elf and alien spirits. Things that do not lend themselves to being predators, to being threats, to being assaults. I am sorry. You must forgive my derisiveness when it comes to the Stargazers, for they are not even on my map. If there was a time that Stargazers posed a threat to us, that time has long gone. Maybe they thought it was a good thought, a good theory, a good plan to retreat and gain focus and strategize and think of the perfect way to take down the worm without actually putting their neck on the chopping block. And that was a good idea. I do not doubt that that was a fine idea for maybe the first decade, or the second, or the third, or the fourth. But once you've been like that for over a century and you haven't found the path, you haven't found the way to defeat thine enemy, I would suggest that it's a lost cause. And more Stargazers are now coming to grips with that, which is why you hear occasionally that they've rejoined the Garou Nation, because individuals among the more small packs from their number have realised all of our elders have been staring up their own rectums for the past century. They have done what we could not. They have wiped themselves out through their laziness, through their embrace of sloth, through their tentativeness, through their shyness, through their being completely hopeless in this new world of ours. They could not keep up with technology. The threats that we put on the table now, they could not account for that. They could never have accounted for that. Yes, there have been some random occasions in Thailand, in Laos, Cambodia, where we have found some of our operations disrupted, but I would rather put that down to some of their fairer, changing breeds than the activities of Stargazers. Sometimes it would appear that electrics are corroded from within. Sometimes it would appear that fires spring out of nowhere, that for whatever reason the tsunami almost definitely seemed to hit our operation. If you listen to a Pentex employee telling you that, and you believe it, you've just failed a test. No tribe is that coordinated. No tribe is that powerful. And what's more, if that tribe was, and has been doing all of that from the safety of its little cave in the middle of the bloody Himalayas, well, I guarantee the rest of the Garou Nation do not think on them too kindly. That were they to find out that while they're going out there risking their necks every single night, every single day that they oppose us, and then they find out the Stargazers have been doing all of this from their perches, from their monasteries, well, find that evidence, point a more reliable Garou in their direction, watch sparks fly. It's a simple tactic, but really I do not see why we should waste our resources on wolves that are content to hide in the dark until their time is up. Now stop wasting my time.